A total solar eclipse is happening on April 8th, 2024.
NASA says this is also a serious scientific event.
On April 8, 2024, a rare total solar eclipse will cast its shadow across the USA, captivating observers with its celestial spectacle. While many anticipate this event with excitement, others harbor worries, fearing it may align with ancient prophecies foretelling significant disruptions. Some speculate whether this eclipse serves as a cosmic signal, heralding transformative events on the horizon. As discussions swirl about its potential significance, curiosity mounts about the eclipse's deeper meaning. Join us as we delve into the mysteries surrounding this extraordinary celestial occurrence and its implications for our future. The upcoming total eclipse is here. Circle April 8, 2024 on your calendars because we're in for a spectacular show above us. We're going to witness a solar eclipse, but not just any kind. This will be a total solar eclipse, a rare event where the moon passes directly between the Earth and the sun, completely covering the sun for a short period. This natural wonder is not only a breathtaking sight, but also has sparked lots of discussions and theories, particularly because some people believe it might have something to do with the elections happening in 2024 in the United States and in Israel. There's quite a buzz around this, with some folks suggesting that this eclipse could be a harbinger of major changes or even signify apocalyptic events. I plan to dive deep into this topic, exploring the phenomenon of the eclipse itself, its potential meanings, and the various predictions and theories that are circulating. And trust me, you won't want to miss the conclusion of this discussion. I promise it will be filled with unexpected insights and revelations. All right, now let's turn our attention to a different topic that connects with our earlier discussion about the solar eclipse. And this time we're talking about the Bible. The Bible is a very old book that includes a lot of different things. One of the things it talks about is what the future will look like, with warnings and visions about what will happen at the end of the world. Interestingly enough, a lot of these warnings from the Bible talk about big events happening in the sky, like changes in the way the sun, moon, and stars look. And yes, this can include events like eclipses. For instance, there's a part in the Bible, in the New Testament, in a book called Luke. In Luke chapter 21, verse 25, Jesus talks about unusual things happening in the sky, involving the sun, the moon, and the stars. He mentions that these strange events are signs that the end of the world is getting closer. Because of what Jesus said, when there's something out of the ordinary happening in the sky, like the total solar eclipse we're talking about, people start to get curious. They wonder if these strange events are the ones mentioned in the Bible. They think maybe these are the warning signs that the end of the world is near. So this solar eclipse we're going to see isn't just an everyday thing. It's causing a lot of people to think and ask questions about the future and what it might bring. If we want to really understand what signs like solar or lunar eclipses might mean, there are several important things we should consider. First off, we need to remember what has happened before. Looking at history is really helpful because it can teach us a lot about what might happen in the future. Next, we should look at what the Bible itself has to say, since it specifically mentions events like these. Then we should pay attention to what's going on in the world right now. And lastly, we need to think deeply about all these aspects together. By doing this, we can start to figure out if these unusual signs in the sky are actually trying to tell us something very important, or if they're just part of the normal cycle of stories and warnings that have been shared in the Bible for many years. In the Bible, specifically in the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 1 verse 9, there is a very important saying that goes, "What has happened before will happen again. What has been done before will be done again." There's nothing really new under the sun. This is a way of saying that events in history tend to repeat themselves. It's as if life is a giant wheel that keeps turning, bringing back the same types of situations and events again and again. This concept of repetition in history is not just an observation, but a profound insight. It suggests that human nature, the way societies function, and how we interact with the world don't fundamentally change over time. We see patterns, actions, and reactions that mirror those from the past. This cyclical nature of history means that by looking back, we can sometimes predict or understand what might happen in the future. Now, let's delve deeper into this idea, especially from a spiritual perspective. Many believe that God, as described in the Bible, is timeless. This means that he is unchanging across the ages. What he was, he still is, and will continue to be. This belief underlines the idea that God interacts with humanity today in the same ways he did in the past. So when God communicated with people in the Bible, giving guidance or warning against wrong actions, it is believed that he continues to communicate and guide people today. The issue of idolatry, which means worshiping objects or entities other than God, is a recurring theme in the Bible. It's highlighted as a major mistake or sin that people repeatedly commit. According to biblical narratives, whenever a society or nation indulges in idolatry or commits collective sins, it faces consequences. These lessons from the past serve as warnings for the present and the future. Throughout the Bible, particularly in the stories involving prophets, we see this theme play out. Prophets were messengers sent by God to warn the people of Israel about their wrongdoings, especially idolatry and other sins. Along with their warnings, there were often signs given, both to authenticate their messages and to signify the seriousness of the moment. For example, if we turn our attention to the New Testament in the book of Revelation, chapter 6, we encounter the allegory of the four horsemen. These horsemen are depicted as harbingers of various forms of judgment sent by God to a world straying from his laws. Each horseman symbolizes a different aspect of these divine judgments, such as war, famine, pestilence, and death. These symbols are meant to represent the consequences of human actions and the cyclical nature of divine retribution according to the patterns laid out in the Bible. The first one is about conquest or leadership. This means new leaders or big changes in power that can lead to splitting up and lots of confusion worldwide. Then comes war, which obviously leads to fighting and breaks the peace. After war, there's often famine, which means people and countries face big money problems and can't grow enough food. And lastly, there's death, which can come from diseases and other causes. All these events are like a pattern that shows how things might go badly if people and nations don't listen and change their ways. By understanding these symbols and what they've meant in the past, we can get a better idea of what might be happening now or what could happen in the future. Having explored celestial mysteries, we now turn to historical cycles and divine warnings that shape our future and echo past mistakes. History's biggest lessons from past occurrences. In our world, big events that affect everyone often happen, and these can sometimes remind us of stories and lessons from the Bible. These events might show up because people in different places are doing things that aren't good, like being unfair to others or caring more about money and things than about what's right. It's like history, and the lessons from the Bible keep repeating. Let's take an example from the Bible to understand this better. There was a time when a king named Nebuchadnezzar from Babylon was used by God to teach a lesson not just to Israel, but to other places too, like Egypt, Assyria, Moab, and areas near the sea, like where the Philistines and Phoenicians lived. This was a way to show that the wrong things these nations were doing hadn't gone unnoticed. Before this big takeover, there was a prophet named Jeremiah. He talked about really tough times coming, like a serious disease and not having enough food, which made everything harder for these countries and made them weaker before Babylon came in. The Bible, in Jeremiah chapter 38, verse 2, says something pretty strong. If you stay in the city, you're going to face a lot of bad stuff like fighting, hunger, and sickness. But if you give up to the Babylonians, you'll live. It's a harsh way of saying that sometimes tough choices have to be made. Now, if we look at what's been happening in our own time, starting from around 2020, we've seen some scary stuff that looks a bit like those old warnings. There's been illness everywhere, people not having enough to eat, money problems all over, lots of angry protests and talks of fighting with countries like Russia. It's not just one place facing these troubles, it's happening all around the world. These big problems remind us of the bad habits and wrong choices in different places, like being too greedy or not caring about others. which can lead to tough times or even bigger troubles from above. When we see these things happening, it can feel like history is repeating itself, like the stories from the Bible are happening in our time. It's like a signal that maybe we need to think about what's really important and make better choices, both as individuals and as countries. These events can be seen as warnings, making us stop and think about how we're living and treating each other. Now, just because we see these signs, it doesn't mean the world is ending right away. But it's hard to ignore these signs. They seem to tell us that big changes might be coming. When we talk about signs, especially from above, there's usually a reason they appear. There's often been a kind of heads up or warning given before, because it's believed that God doesn't just do things out of the blue. He gives a heads up through his messengers, the prophets. So let's talk about something fascinating, how the sun and the moon fit into all these predictions and warnings. It's interesting in the stories from the Bible how the moon often stands for the nation of Israel, and the sun represents other countries around the world. Stick with me here because this is where it gets intriguing. In the first book of the Bible, Genesis, it's written that the sun, the moon, and the stars were all made on the fourth day of creation. But think about this. There was already light on earth before that, on the third day, and even plants and trees were growing. How could plants grow if the sun, which they need to survive, wasn't made until the next day? This is a real brain teaser. This part of the Bible is trying to show us how important the sun and the moon are, not just for telling day from night, but for the whole balance of our planet. Without the sun and the moon, the earth would be very different. There'd be no seasons, no weather, and not even any rain. Before the big flood in Noah's time, it seems like it didn't really rain at all. The Bible says before plants were widespread, there wasn't rain like we know today. Instead, water would come up from the ground to water the earth. But let's go deeper into the idea of the sun and moon as symbols. If the moon represents Israel and the sun stands for other nations, then changes in the sky, like solar or lunar eclipses, might be symbolic messages. They could be telling us about changes or challenges for Israel and for the whole world. This is super interesting because it means that these heavenly events could be more than just cool science. They could be messages or signs related to the big picture of what's happening on Earth. Furthermore, if we keep following this line of thought, the timing and appearance of these celestial bodies, how and when they show up in our sky, might give us hints about what's happening globally. In the past, people paid much closer attention to the sky because they believed it influenced life on Earth directly. So when we see unusual things happening with the sun and moon, it could be worth taking a closer look, not just scientifically, but also thinking about what these signs could mean in a bigger sense. Shifting focus from the past to the cosmos, we delve into the roles of the sun and moon in ancient narratives and their meanings for us today. How did plants come before the sun? Let's ponder a really big question together. Why did God make plants even before there was a sun in the sky or a moon at night? And even more curious, why were plants created when there was no rain to water them? This might make you scratch your head, thinking, that's a bit odd, isn't it? Well, there's a hint to this puzzle in the very first book of the Bible, which is called Genesis. It sheds some light on this mystery. In Genesis, it's mentioned that the sun and the moon were not made just for giving light or to help plants grow. Instead, they had very special roles. According to Genesis, chapters 1, verses 14 to 19, these bright objects up in the sky were put there to split day from night. But that's not all. They were also meant to mark special occasions, like festivals, the changing of seasons, and even to count the years. So the sun and the moon had jobs way beyond just lighting up the world or supporting plants. They were like nature's big calendar, meant to help people know when it was time to celebrate, when seasons were changing, or how to keep track of the passing years. But if we go deeper into the stories told in the Bible, we find out that the stars and moons are not just there to help us keep track of dates or seasons. They mean a lot more, especially when we start talking about what's going to happen in the future, which some people call prophecies. For instance, in another part of the Bible called the Book of Joel, there's a section that talks about some really unusual and frightening things happening up in the sky. It says there will be times when the sun will become dark and the moon will appear as red as blood. This isn't your everyday weather report or the usual changes we see in the sky. Instead, these are signals of major events that might be a bit alarming, like warnings that there could be wars or significant shifts happening in the world. Imagine the sky above us acting like a huge billboard, flashing important alerts that say, "Look here, something big is happening." This is similar to what the Bible suggests. When strange things occur with the sun, moon, or stars, it's like a heads up that important moments are on the horizon. Jesus himself spoke about this, explaining that before significant events unfold, we'll witness unusual natural occurrences, such as earthquakes shaking the ground and conflicts erupting between nations. Now let's delve into something really intriguing that happened not too long ago, between the years 2014 and 2015. This event is known as the Blood Moon Tetrad. This term might sound like something from a science fiction movie, but it's actually a series of 4 total lunar eclipses. What made these eclipses stand out was not just their stunning red glow, but their timing. Each eclipse coincided with a significant Jewish holiday, turning regular nights into spectacles filled with wonder and questions. People around the world didn't just view this as an amazing astronomical event. Many pondered whether it was a sign, something akin to the celestial warnings described in the Bible. The Blood Moon Tetrad sparked a lot of discussions and thoughts. The fact that these lunar eclipses landed precisely on these important religious dates has led many to speculate. Could this be a divine message? Was there a deeper meaning behind the timing and sequence of these celestial events? Consider the symbolism here. The alignment of such significant occurrences with major events and festivals in Israel seems too exact to be mere chance. This precision invites us to pause and reflect. It encourages us to think about whether these natural celestial phenomena could be interpreted as signals or messages. Are they perhaps indicators related to significant developments in our world, or foretellings of what may come in the future? Moreover, this phenomenon of the Blood Moon Tetrad opens the door to a broader discussion. It pushes us to question the connection between natural events in the heavens and historical or future events on Earth. The exact timing with Jewish holidays adds layers of historical and spiritual significance, intertwining astronomical events with cultural and religious moments. This intertwining prompts a deeper examination of our world's rhythms and the possible connections between heaven and earth, between the cosmic and the terrestrial. Many people found it hard to understand the importance of a certain sign, and even now, we're not sure what it really means. The number 4 is often used to talk about something very important and powerful that comes from God's words. In a way, the moon is like a symbol that shows God is watching and protecting the country and people of Israel. When the moon turns a red color during an eclipse, many think it's a warning that bad things are going to happen soon, especially fighting and serious disagreements. This whole event with the eclipses lasted for about 2 years. In the stories from the Bible, the number 2 can mean there's going to be a split or division. So this long period of eclipses made some people think it was a divine message about a possible split in the land of Israel. The Bible, especially in Joel chapter 3, verse 12, talks about a very important time that starts 7 years of a lot of trouble and God judging different countries. It's about a time when God brings all the countries together in a place called the Valley of Jehoshaphat because they treated Israel badly, like scattering its people and splitting up the land. Right now, it looks like countries are dividing the land of Israel, which is something the book of Joel hinted might happen. The Bible even names specific countries, Tyre and Sidon, that are said to be part of the reason for this division. What comes next is really surprising. Sidon and Tyre were places where the Phoenicians lived, and they were really good at trading and business. The prophet Ezekiel talks about the king of Tyre in Ezekiel chapter 28 and suggests he could be a sign of the Antichrist, a very bad figure. After Tyre and Sidon were taken over by the Greeks and Romans, it's thought that the Phoenician people moved to places like Greece and Rome. Connecting ancient empires to modern times reveals how historical powers influence our current events and foreshadow future prophecies. How old seafarers shape modern borders. A long time ago, there lived a group of people called the Phoenicians, who were known for their incredible skills in sailing and trading across the vast oceans. These ancient sailors named the landmass we now know as Europe after a woman named Europa. Europa wasn't just any woman, she was actually the daughter of a very famous Phoenician king from the city of Tyre. It's really interesting to see how the names and ideas from such a long time ago still influence the big places we know today, like the European Union, the United Nations, and even America. These modern areas have historical links back to ancient cities like Tyre and Sidon, which were major centers of the Phoenician civilization. These connections between the past and present become even more interesting when we think about certain predictions made in the Bible. According to the Bible, there will be a peace agreement that will last for 7 years, and this treaty is believed to be a significant event in future predictions. This agreement is particularly noteworthy because it is supposed to be linked to a future leader who will bring about a great deal of trouble, a figure often referred to as the Antichrist. Understanding this connection is crucial as it might give us insights into significant future events. Then let's talk about the year 2017, which was marked by two major and unusual events in America. The first event was the Great American Solar Eclipse, which occurred on August 21st. This was not just any solar eclipse. It was a major event that could be seen from the west coast to the east coast of the United States. However, it's important to remember that an eclipse on its own might not hold much significance. But when it coincides with other significant signs, particularly those associated with biblical prophecies and the history of Israel, it gains more importance. Eclipses have been considered by many cultures and throughout history as signs or omens, especially when they align with certain historical or biblical events. In the context of 2017, this eclipse gained attention not just for its unique path across America, but also for its timing and potential connection to other significant occurrences and prophecies. In the month following the eclipse, on September 23, 2017, an even more extraordinary event occurred in the sky. This event involved a unique alignment of stars and planets that captured the attention of many people around the world. Specifically, this alignment involved the constellations Virgo and Leo, along with the planets Mercury, Mars, Venus, and Jupiter. Additionally, the Sun and the Moon were part of this arrangement. All of these celestial bodies came together to form a configuration that strongly resembled a scene described in the Bible, specifically in the 12th chapter of Revelation. This particular alignment was so rare and matched the description in the Bible so well that it sparked a lot of curiosity and speculation about its possible significance. Now let me tell you something fascinating. This special configuration of stars and planets has occurred only 2 times throughout all of human history. Yes, just 2 times. But there's even more to this story that you might find intriguing. These celestial patterns are not just random occurrences. They carry deeper meanings, especially for those who study and interpret astronomical events in relation to biblical texts. This is especially interesting to consider as we look forward to the upcoming solar eclipse in 2024. It seems that these patterns in the stars and planets may once again become a focal point of attention. In the 12th chapter of the book of Revelation, there is a narrative filled with symbolism and dramatic events. This narrative includes a fierce conflict involving a malevolent entity often referred to as the Antichrist or the Beast. This figure is depicted as being in opposition to the good forces, known as the saints. Moreover, Revelation 12 touches on significant historical and prophetic themes, such as the birth of the nation of Israel right in the heart of Jerusalem. This event is not just a piece of historical record, but is intertwined with deeper spiritual and prophetic implications, according to the biblical narrative. The alignment of stars and planets on September 23, 2017, which mirrors the imagery found in Revelation, has led many to ponder the connection between celestial events and major biblical prophecies. Now, let's connect the dots. When we look at these celestial signs together, it's like they're sending a big, urgent message to the United States, especially about Israel and the idea of splitting up its land. This idea of division isn't just random. It ties back to a time period mentioned in the Bible. Fast forward 3.5 years from August 2017, and we land on January 28, 2020. Around this time, President Donald Trump put forward a big plan he called Peace to Prosperity. This wasn't just any plan. It suggested creating 2 separate states, meaning the land of Israel would be divided. Under his proposal, 70% of Israel's land, including the eastern part of Jerusalem, would be given to the Palestinians. Now, the Palestinians have a long history, and in ancient times they were known as the Philistines, who were often in conflict with the Israelites. The proposal was a huge deal because it was about trying to find peace by dividing land that has a lot of history and meaning for many people. By suggesting this two-state solution, Trump was stepping into a big historical debate. This debate isn't new, it's been going on for centuries, rooted in deep history, involving the land that's been fought over, cherished, and told about in countless stories throughout time. This plan was called a century deal because it aimed to solve a conflict that's been going on for a very long time, hoping to bring prosperity and peace to an area filled with historical tension. But remember, this isn't just about land, it's about history, beliefs, and people's futures. Bridging past and present, we confront the realities of today and the implications for tomorrow, deciphering what the final eclipse sign signifies. The Eclipse X, Signs of Times Changing. Just 3 months after the start of this chapter, a big health crisis spread all over the world, causing a lot of problems and sadness for many people. After this health crisis started, there were a lot of other troubles too. People everywhere were having a hard time with money. There were big arguments and fights within countries. There were problems with Russia. And in 2020, 2 big leaders, Netanyahu from Israel and Trump from the United States, lost their power. What was really strange was that the troubles we were facing happened in a different order than many people expected. Instead of seeing the problems that the 4 horsemen from the Bible bring one by one, it seemed like we saw them backwards. Because of all these big changes, new groups started to form around the world. 2 big groups called Gog and Magog in stories seemed to come together in real life. This happened as countries with a lot of oil started working more with a group of countries known as BRICS, which includes China. These new friendships were a big challenge to the American dollar, which is often used to buy and sell things all over the world. This challenge led to prices going up a lot in America and caused a lot of worry that banks might start having big problems. All these big events were talked about long ago in the Bible as things that would happen around Israel when the world is getting close to changing a lot. Now, looking ahead to April 8th, 2024, we're expecting another solar eclipse, 7 years after the one in August 2017. This new eclipse is special because it's going to create a big X shape right over the United States. But there's a difference from the last one in 2017. This eclipse will only be seen in the eastern part of the country. Plus, it's happening 7 months before the big election in 2024 for the President of the United States. What's more, just like in the sign of Revelation 12 from the Bible, there will be an important lineup in the sky. The constellation Leo, which many people connect with the ideas of Judah and Jerusalem, is going to line up with the sun during this eclipse on April 8, 2024. This kind of event, where the stars and what's happening on Earth seem to connect, has a lot of people thinking and talking about what it all could mean, especially when it comes to big changes and events in the world. This group of stars we're talking about is linked to a powerful symbol in the Bible, the Lion of Judah, which many people believe represents Jesus. But what does all of this really mean, especially when we talk about what the Bible predicts for the future? The number 7 is a big deal in these stories because it's often seen as a symbol for finishing something, like wrapping up a big chapter or cycle. When we dive into this idea in the Bible, it's often connected to a specific time frame for Israel, called the 70 weeks of judgment, which is like a bunch of 7-year periods all added together. This upcoming eclipse isn't just a heads up about what might happen later. It's more like a mirror reflecting on things that have happened before, showing how they tie into what's coming. Now let's talk about the X shape that this eclipse is going to make. It's really interesting because it looks a lot like the Hebrew letter Tav. This letter is pretty special because it shows up only a couple of times in the whole Bible. One of these moments is in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 9, where Tav is talked about as a kind of protective sign put on people who were really upset about all the wrong things happening around the first Jewish temple before it was destroyed. It's kind of like how in the story of Exodus, people marked their doorposts during the very first Passover to stay safe, which hints at bigger themes like the scary mark of the beast and also the protective sign over 144,000 witnesses talked about during a time of big trouble, known as the 7-year tribulation period. Was the April 8, 2024 solar eclipse just an ordinary event? Or did it reveal secrets predicted in ancient texts, perhaps even altering our future? Share your thoughts below and don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the mysteries that surround us.